All right, so let's take a deep dive into these Hindalco Industries limited Q2 FY25 results, see what we can uncover. We've got a lot to work with here. Official reports, investor presentations, and even some expert-generated questions. Should make things interesting.
Yeah, it's like we're piecing together a puzzle, all these different pieces to get the full picture of Hindalco's financial performance.
Exactly, and these results are fresh out the oven, released just on November 11th, 2024, straight from both the BSE and the NSE. Looks like the board of directors took their time with it too, meeting from 5 p.m. to 6:50 p.m. that day. Guess they wanted to really give everything a thorough look over.
And to top it off, we've got the audit from PricewaterhouseCoopers Chartered Accountants, LLP. That really adds a layer of credibility to these numbers. It means we can dig into this analysis, knowing that the figures have been thoroughly vetted.
Okay, so first things first, let's talk revenue.
Always a good place to start.
Even with all the global economic whatchamacallit, Hindalco has managed to increase revenue by 7% year over year, bringing it to a total of 58,203 crore. Definitely tells us they're not just weathering the storm, they're finding ways to thrive.
7% increase is nothing to sneeze at, especially considering the headwinds a lot of businesses are facing globally. Seems like Hindalco's pretty adept at adapting to market conditions and seizing those opportunities.
Now hold on to your hats because this next number really jumps out. EBITDA is up a whopping 49% year over year to a total of 9,100 crore.
Wow, 49%. That's not just good, that's exceptional.
It makes you wonder what's fueling that kind of efficiency
Yeah.
and how sustainable it is over the long haul.
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on.
And the good news keeps on coming. Profit after tax has skyrocketed 78% year over year, hitting 3,909 crore.
Those are some serious gains. It paints a picture of a company on a definite upward trajectory.
But we need to dig deeper, break down their performance by business segment.
All right, get into the nitty-gritty.
Exactly, because that's where the real insights are hiding. Let's start with Novelis. They're aluminum rolling and recycling powerhouse. They operate globally. So we're talking US dollars here. Revenue's up 5% year over year, reaching $4.3 billion, fueled by record shipments for beverage packaging. Think about all those aluminum cans out there. They're definitely tapping into the sustainability trend.
Smart move on their part. As consumers become more eco-conscious, this segment is well-positioned to benefit.
But there's a slight hiccup. Novelis' EBITDA is down 5% year over year to $462 million. Apparently, they had a major flood at their plant in Sierre, Switzerland.
Oof, a flood. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah, it impacted production.
Natural disasters can certainly throw a wrench in the works. A good reminder that even the best-laid plans can be affected by those external factors.
Makes you wonder how they're going to mitigate this setback moving forward. Now let's switch gears. Let's look at Hindalco's aluminum upstream operations. This is where they produce the raw aluminum. Things are looking much brighter here. Revenue is up 16% year over year to a total of 9,125 crore. This is thanks in part to higher aluminum prices.
Higher commodity prices can be a bit of a double-edged sword, right? They benefit the producers, but can potentially impact those downstream businesses that rely on those commodities.
True, it's a delicate balance. And even with a slight decrease in shipments, their aluminum upstream EBITDA soared by an incredible 79% year over year, reaching 3,709 crore.
That's quite a jump, especially with shipments being down. Suggests they've been very strategic in managing both their pricing and production to maximize their profitability.
Now for their aluminum downstream business, which focuses on value-added aluminum products. We're seeing a healthy 20% year-over-year increase in revenue, hitting 3,161 crore. This growth is mainly due to higher volumes. Shows there's a strong demand for their products.
Definitely a positive sign. Indicates they're meeting those market needs effectively.
But we also need to consider the profitability of those sales, right?
Absolutely can't forget about the bottom line.
And that's where we see a slight dip. EBITDA for this segment is down 1% year over year to 154 crore. Their reports attribute this to what they're calling an unfavorable product mix, meaning the types of products sold this quarter didn't generate as much profit as last year.
That highlights the importance of strategic product portfolio management. Companies need to analyze that market demand and adjust their offerings accordingly, making sure they're maximizing profitability.
Speaking of maximizing profitability, let's talk about their copper business. Revenue's up 5% year over year, driven by those higher copper prices.
The global copper market is definitely something to keep an eye on. Surging demand driven by the clean energy transition and electrification trends.
Yeah, Hindalco is riding that wave. Record high EBITDA for their copper segment. surging 27% year over year.
It seems like they're in the right place at the right time. This strong performance tells us that Hindalco isn't just benefiting from these favorable market conditions, but they're actively capitalizing on them.
Now, so far we've seen impressive financial results. But it's not all about the numbers, right? Sustainability is becoming increasingly important these days.
Absolutely. It's not just a nice to have anymore. It's a must have. Investors and consumers are demanding it.
And Hindalco seems to be taking it seriously. They've achieved their highest ever score on the Dow Jones Sustainability Index.
That's a big deal.
It means they're not just paying lip service to ESG principles, they're actually walking the walk.
It's a testament to their commitment to integrating sustainability into their core operations. Signals a long-term vision.
And it's not just about accolades either. They're making tangible progress on things like renewable energy adoption, waste recycling, and water management.
Those are the kinds of initiatives that reduce costs, mitigate risk, and enhance their brand reputation.
It's not just feel-good stuff. It makes good business sense. Now let's take a peek into the future. Hindalco has outlined some pretty ambitious growth plans for both their aluminum and copper businesses.
It's going to be interesting to see how these plans unfold, whether they can maintain this impressive momentum.
They're planning a major expansion of their aluminum smelting capacity in India, aiming for an increase of 280 to 300 kilotons.
Wow, that's a significant commitment.
And that's not all. They're also establishing India's first e-waste and copper scrap recycling plant. Aligns perfectly with their focus on circular economy principles.
A smart move. Securing a sustainable source of copper while tapping into that growing market for recycled materials, it's a win-win.
And they're developing high-performance alloys and battery foils, a clear nod to that burgeoning electric vehicle market. Plus, they're expanding downstream aluminum capacity to meet the rising demand for those value-added products.
These initiatives show they're agile, they're responding to those emerging market trends, and they're willing to invest in innovation to stay ahead of the curve.
They're also commissioning a greenfield alumina refinery, which will give them a cost-effective source of alumina for their existing smelters.
Smart move. Vertical integration to secure that supply chain and control costs.
So we've covered quite a bit of ground already. It's clear Hindalco is on a roll. Impressive financial performance, ambitious growth plans, but they're also making sure that growth is sustainable, both for their business and for the planet.
It's evident in their actions that their commitment to ESG principles is more than just talk. It's going to be fascinating to see how this translates into long-term value creation.
But wait, there's more. In the next part, we'll delve deeper into the specifics of their sustainability journey, explore what it all means for you.
We'll examine their achievements, their goals, and the broader implications of their approach to these sustainable business practices. Welcome back to our deep dive into Hindalco's Q2 FY25 performance. We saw some pretty impressive numbers in part one. But let's shift gears a bit. Talk about what those numbers really mean for Hindalco and for you.
Okay, so what are the key takeaways here? What really stood out to you?
Well, first off, Hindalco's ability to not just survive, but actually thrive in this uncertain global economy, it's pretty remarkable. There's 7% revenue growth, especially in those aluminum upstream and downstream segments, suggests they're not just riding the waves, they're charting their own course.
Yeah, it's like they've got this sixth sense for navigating these choppy economic waters.
Exactly. And that 49% EBITDA surge, that's not just a fluke. It's a clear sign that they're laser-focused on operational efficiency. They're managing costs, streamlining processes, squeezing every ounce of value out of their assets.
You know, that reminds me that one of the expert questions we had, they were curious about any significant changes in operating margins. Well, I guess there's your answer. But what's driving that efficiency? Is it sustainable?
Yeah, yes. The million-dollar question. We'll definitely need to keep an eye on future reports, see if they can maintain this level of performance. But for now, it's certainly a positive indicator.
And then there are those bold growth initiatives they've outlined. Expanding smelting capacity, building that recycling plant, developing high-performance alloys. It's like they're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers.
They're definitely thinking long-term, anticipating that future demand, and positioning themselves to be major players in the aluminum and copper space for years to come. But of course, there are always challenges. We can't ignore that flood at the Novelis plant in Switzerland.
Yeah, the Sierra plant incident.
Yeah.
Shows that even the most well-prepared companies can be hit by these unforeseen events. But I was impressed by how quickly they were able to restart operations.
Right. It speaks to their resilience, their ability to adapt to those unexpected situations. And even with that setback, Novelis' overall revenue still grew, shows the underlying strength of that business.
And even with that positive volume growth in the aluminum downstream segment, we can't overlook that dip in EBITDA. Due to the, what was it, unfavorable product mix? What exactly does that mean? And what kind of strategic decisions might have led to that?
Well, essentially, it means that the types of products they sold this quarter, they weren't as profitable as the ones they sold last year. Could be a shift in market demand, pricing pressures, or even internal decisions about which products to prioritize.
Okay, so it's a reminder. You can't just chase volume. You need to focus on selling the right products at the right margins.
Absolutely. It's a delicate balancing act.
Now let's talk copper. Hindalco's copper business is a shining example of how to capitalize on market trends. The global copper market is booming, driven by the clean energy transition and the electrification of everything.
And Hindalco is right there in the thick of it.
Yeah, that record EBITDA for copper, definitely a highlight. But what's behind their success in this area? Is it just luck? Or is there something more strategic happening?
I'd say it's a combination of factors. They've got the assets, they're expanding their capacity, and they're strategically positioned to meet that growing demand. They're not just riding the wave, they're creating it.
And that e-waste and copper scrap recycling plant. Brilliant move. Securing a sustainable source of copper while also tapping into that circular economy trend. It's like hitting two birds with one stone.
Exactly. A forward-thinking strategy. Benefits both their bottom line and the planet.
Okay, so stepping back for a moment, big picture. What do you see as Hindalco's long-term game plan?
Well, they're making a clear bet on India's growth story, expanding smelting capacity, developing those value-added products, boosting recycling. It's all about capturing the immense potential of the Indian market.
But they're not limiting themselves to just India, are they? They're also expanding their global reach, especially with Novelis.
Right. It's a two-pronged approach, strengthening their position in India while also making their mark on that world stage.
And they're doing it all with a focus on sustainability. It's like it's woven into every aspect of their business, from operations to growth strategies.
It's not just a talking point, it's a core value driving their decision-making.
So for someone listening to this, whether they're an investor, a business enthusiast, or just someone who's interested in the metals and mining industry, what should they take away from this deep dive so far?
I think there are several key takeaways. First, pay attention to companies that walk the talk when it comes to sustainability. It's a sign of long-term thinking, a commitment to creating value for all stakeholders.
It's about more than just profits. It's about making a positive impact on the world.
Exactly. Second, look for companies that are investing in innovation. The world's changing rapidly, and those who embrace new technologies and adapt to those evolving needs, they're likely to be the winners.
Like Hindalco's move into high-performance alloys and battery foils. They're not just sticking with what they know. They're anticipating the future.
Right. And finally, recognize the importance of strategic focus. Hindalco's success in the copper market demonstrates their ability to identify opportunities, develop the right capabilities, and execute effectively.
They saw that copper boom coming, and they were ready for it.
Absolutely. Now, there's one more aspect of Hindalco's performance we need to explore, their sustainability initiatives. That's where we'll pick up in part 3.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive, and we've got to talk about Hindalco's commitment to sustainability. It's not just a side project for them. It's like it's woven into everything they do.
Yeah, it's more than just lip service. We're talking concrete actions, measurable results. That's what sets them apart.
Right. Remember that top score on the Dow Jones Sustainability Index? It's not just a feel-good award. It's a testament to their performance across a whole range of ESG metrics.
Absolutely. And their score of 87 out of 100 on the S&P Global Corporate Sustainability Assessment for 2024. Seriously impressive.
87.
Shows they're not just meeting industry standards, they're exceeding them.
So where are they really excelling?
Well, in the environmental category, they scored a perfect 100 percentile in several key areas: environmental policy and management, energy efficiency, waste and pollutant management, even biodiversity conservation.
Wow, they're not just minimizing their impact. They're actually contributing to a healthier environment.
Right. It's a holistic approach.
And what about the social side of things?
They didn't neglect that either. Achieved a really impressive 89 out of 100 in the social category, demonstrating strong performance in human capital management, workplace safety, customer relations.
So they're investing in their people, building strong relationships with their customers, creating a positive social impact.
It's a win-win situation.
And for governance.
Solid 84 out of 100, with perfect scores in areas like transparency and reporting, risk and crisis management. business ethics.
It's like they've built this strong ethical foundation, underpins everything they do.
Exactly. Now let's dive into some specifics. We know they're pursuing all these sustainability initiatives. What are some of the highlights that really stand out to you?
Their waste recycling efforts are really impressive. In the first half of FY25, they recycled and reused 79% of their total waste. And get this, for bauxite residue, excluding the Hindalco refinery, they're recycling a whopping 111%.
Wow, that's not just waste reduction. That's resource optimization. They're turning what would have been waste into valuable materials, reducing their environmental footprint and boosting their bottom line.
And their water management practices, especially in India, where water is such a crucial resource.
They're making big strides there, too. Implemented zero liquid discharge projects at 15 out of their 19 sites, drastically reducing their water consumption. They're also on track to achieve water positivity at 5 units, meaning they'll replenish more water than they use.
That's amazing. Going above and beyond, a great example of how businesses can not only minimize their impact, but actually give back to the environment.
And their commitment to renewable energy is impressive, too. They've set a target of reaching 300 megawatts of renewable energy capacity by the first half of 2025. And they're well on their way, with 183 megawatts already in operation.
So they're powering their operations with clean energy, reducing their carbon emissions, contributing to a more sustainable energy future.
They're walking the walk, for sure.
And it doesn't stop there. They're developing biodiversity management plans,
Yeah.
protecting native species, creating green belts around their facilities. It's clear they're committed to sustainability across the board.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Hindalco's Q2 FY25 results, what's the big takeaway for our listeners?
Well, we've seen a company that's not only delivering strong financial performance, but they're doing it in a way that's sustainable and responsible. They're setting a new standard for the metals and mining industry, proving that profitability and sustainability can go hand in hand.
It's inspiring to see a company like Hindalco leading the way. They're not just talking about sustainability, they're making it a core part of their business strategy.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something worth paying attention to.
We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights into Hindalco's performance and their commitment to a more sustainable future. But as always, we encourage you to keep exploring. What do you think about Hindalco's approach to sustainability? How do their actions compare to other companies in the metals and mining sector? Something to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep asking questions